I want to go through today a few simple steps to guide you on how to actually set up your own hardware wallet, because the importance of self-custodying is going to be a major theme that everyone should start looking into, even if it's just to do some research and to start playing around on storing your desirable digital assets onto these hardware wallets under a self-custody arrangement. Because I've made several videos explaining that given the shenanigans from politicians or from companies when it comes to managing your investments, your portfolio investments, it comes to a point where you have to really ask yourself, what is the best arrangement for me on trying to circumvent any type of event that could actually endanger or even harm my crypto holdings, particularly trying to move away from crypto exchanges, which is under a centralized custodianship. Centralized exchange platforms like Binance, Crypto.com that manage their customer account holdings, digital holdings, which we're starting to see that, this is not really the ideal place to store particularly the majority of digital asset holdings, purely because there is a counterparty risk involved. And what I mean by counterparty risk are precisely when you delegate the responsibility of holding your assets, whether it's bank accounts or in this case digital assets, by a third party. That's what I mean by counterparty risk. So it could be mostly centralized exchange platforms, but even other funds out there, whether it's Bitcoin spot ETFs like BlackRock or Fidelity or any other Bitcoin spot ETFs. Because at the end of the day, as soon as you delegate that authority, it's really under the auspices of those third parties, even though their claim is yours and yours alone. There's still that counterparty risk involved. So I want to spend just a few moments just going through what are the simple steps that would aid you in setting up your own hardware wallet under the self-custody arrangement. Now, there are several leading vendor type hardware wallets out there. In my case, I use a Ledger X Nano device and Trezor, but there are several others out there. You need to do your own research, but for me, Ledger and Trezor are the best in breed vendors out there, which I really find it very difficult for them to go bankrupt or file a Chapter 11 bankruptcy arrangement. So let's take the example. You've already made a selection on your hardware vendor. So let's follow the example of it could be a Trezor, it could be a Ledger, it could be a Bitbox, whatever. The first step says you need to actually visit the official website of your wallet manufacturer, right? You never trust any third-party links that you may receive either through email or an SMS. Always refer to the official website URL address of that chosen wallet manufacturer, because there's an awful lot of phishing attacks just by merely clicking on those links that you receive from other channels. So avoid them completely and just enter the URL address directly on the website yourself by hand. Next, you need to actually download and install the official desktop and mobile application of the wallet manufacturer, because these are the user interface that you're going to be interacting the day-to-day management of your held digital assets. So I usually have two versions. I have an official desktop version of my Trezor and also have a mobile app. So if I'm off-site location, I can easily manage my cryptos under the mobile app version. Again, you need to download the official versions of both of these desktop and mobile apps from the wallet manufacturer website directly, rather than through spurious links that you may receive from other channels, emails, SMS, WhatsApp, and so on. You need to avoid those. You then next need to plug in your hardware wallet using a provided USB cable from the vendor. So when you receive the hardware device, you'll get that USB cable by default, and you just need to plug that in into your laptop, and then you're set and way to actually proceed to follow the vendor's instructions to set up a new device. It's very, very easy. You have the option, mostly it's going to be setting up a brand new device, because it'll be the first time you're going to be arranging or setting up a hardware wallet from scratch. But there may come to a point where, let's say you might have lost it, in which case you need to select the option to recover your existing hardware wallet device rather than setting up a brand new one. Why this is important? Because 24-word seed phrases, this is the information that you need to input rather than setting up a brand new one. We're under the assumption that we're going to be setting up a brand new device and not recovering from an old one. So step 2 is going through setting up your own brand new hardware wallet, in which case the actual instructions on the hardware manufacturer is quite simple and intuitive to follow. It will display the 24 words in a specific order, and then they will guide you through the process of actually writing them down by hand and in a certain order, which is very important on the provided recovery sheet. You need to obviously never take a photo or save it digitally. You need to double check that each word and spelling is case sensitive. You then need to store your seed phrase. There is the option of fireproof or offline and a secure location. So this is very important because once you've set that up, you need to then worry about how to safely secure the 24 written down seed phrases, because it's not really best practice to keep them, the paper copies, in your house. Because what happens if your house gets stolen and someone retrieves the 24 recovery seed phrase and it catches you unawares? Well, at that point, you've lost your crypto. So the best advice is there are several arrangements. You can actually hold them in a password vault manager application, or you can actually record it in a secure offsite location, could be in a bank vault or under a will and test arrangement via notary service, depending on the robustness and protocol arrangement in the jurisdiction that you live. So that is one example that I've chosen that I'm mostly comfortable with. But in addition to that, I have actually created a password vault manager of storing that 24-word recovery seed phrase. So between the two options, I'm fairly confident that I'm completely safe and protected. And it's actually advisable, once you made that secure off-site location and it's completely set up and secure, my recommendation would be to immediately destroy the paper version that you might have held in your house or residence, just for utmost security and peace of mind. So that is a very important step. So for step 3, you then need to set up a PIN on your device. Like any other PIN, whether it's a bank PIN code on your credit card or debit card in your ATM, this is no different. It's the same concept. It's between 4 to 8 digits. So I suggest you select a strong PIN code. And why do we need these PIN codes if you already have the 24 recovery seed phrase, you might be asking? Well, once you set up the actual device, it requires you to enter a PIN code rather than actually having to reintroduce the 24 recovery seed phrase every time you want to access your digital holdings, your digital crypto holdings on the hardware wallet device. It's better to use the PIN code for that, particularly when you want to receive or even send your cryptos from your hardware wallet to, let's say, back to the centralized exchange or to another hardware wallet address. Again, as with the 24-word recovery seed phrase, you should never write them down. You should never certainly share that PIN code to anyone else other than yourself, because you're going to be needing to use it every time you connect to your hardware wallet for sending or receiving cryptos, like I said before. Right, the next step is you need to actually add crypto accounts. For every type of crypto digital asset you want to store in your hardware wallet, in my case, I only have Bitcoin, but you can actually add every type of crypto account in your hardware wallet. So in my case, it's very simple. You just go through the intuitive set of instructions on your hardware wallet manufacturer on how to add account. Typically, there is a setting that would say accounts, and you just need to click on add account. And then you need to select the type of crypto you want to add your holdings to that account. In my case, it's Bitcoin. Once you've done that, the process is quite simple. It will ask you to verify the address on screen on the device and not just the application itself. That is very important, because when you send and receive, let's say, new Bitcoins to your hardware Bitcoin account address, and this is very important, you need to verify your actual Bitcoin account hardware wallet address every single time you want to either receive or send new Bitcoin holdings to it, just for security purposes. Okay, so you need to ensure you do that verification. And it's very simple, because the majority of the hardware wallet always provide additional layer of assurance requiring you to verify the address every single time you want to receive or send cryptos to that designated crypto account hardware wallet address. That is the most important thing. So just an additional peace of mind that you should get used to doing. And then step 5 is when you want to start to receive crypto in your hardware wallet. Well, is again, the process is quite simple to follow. Typically, there is a setting to receive. Then you need to select the account within which you want to receive, let's say, additional Bitcoins. You then need to display the receiving address, so the receiving Bitcoin address. And like I said earlier on, verify the address on your hardware device screen before you actually share it to another person who's going to be sending you those Bitcoins. So they will be assured that this is a string of numbers that accounts for my Bitcoin account address in my hardware wallet. You need to be able to share that securely with the sender who's going to send you Bitcoins to your hardware wallet. You need to share it securely to your friends and ask them to verify, as you would yourself, the actual veracity of this Bitcoin account hardware wallet address that belongs to you. Because the risk there is if they make a mistake, it's irrecoverable, right? So let's say a person inadvertently sent you a handful of Bitcoins to the wrong address. They thought that your address was correct, but they haven't actually verified it correctly to ensure it is yours and it's the correct string of numbers. Then that is the issue. And that is the big risk. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that both the sender of the Bitcoin assets as well as the recipient, they need to jointly, between them, ensure that the veracity of the Bitcoin account address they're about to send new Bitcoins to is indeed the correct one. This is why I stress the importance on always verifying the address on your hardware device screen and also to the sender who's going to be sending you, in this case, new Bitcoins. That is such an important step. And what I would do is when you receive and send crypto, because it's exactly the same process, I would start off with sending a very small amount, a nominal amount, let's say $10 in the case of Bitcoin, just to ensure the correctness of your Bitcoin account address, hardware wallet address on your device. But it's always best practice to send a nominal amount, a small nominal amount, let's say $10, plus the fees that your network provider is going to ask you to send. Again, you need to choose Bitcoin network, which is another area or another catch or situation where people get it wrong. They might have selected a different crypto network provider, which is very rare, but it does happen. That's why you need to really train yourself. And it's very simple. You just need to ensure that you verify the correct Bitcoin account hardware wallet address. That's number one. And secondly, once you've done that and you're on the process of receiving and sending Bitcoins, that you select the Bitcoin network, right? That is the main thing. And once you've done both of those things, and also you start off with sending a small nominal amount of Bitcoins just to be able to test that indeed you've received and sent Bitcoin amounts correctly to the other end, to the receiving end, then that is always best practice before you actually send off the remainder of the amount that you've originally had in mind to send to that person. Very important advice to actually follow through those checks and balances, okay? Just to give you extra comfort that you are following the best practice ways to send and receive crypto holdings in the most secure way. And it's very simple. It's just a question of getting yourself used to and always play around with very small amounts to begin with before you actually send off larger transactions, larger Bitcoin holding transfers, both sending and receiving. That's the actual bottom line. I want to be able to end today's episode on sharing you those very simple, elementary best practices reminders to viewers out there. As I said before, never share and never write down your 24 seed phrase or PIN details to anyone. You need to actually hold them securely at an off-site secure location. All right? So that's the first point. Never use or never trust direct messages, pop-ups, or even support asking for seed information by anyone. If you see that, that should be treated as an automatic red flag to indicate that is a scam or a phishing attempt by the fraudster on the other side. So always avoid that. And you should always use security vulnerability software in your laptop and also in your mobile phones to be able to protect yourself against these scam attacks. The next point is very important, because I always do it from every now and again, is to keep your wallet manufacturer firmware up to date, as well as your apps, whether it's a desktop app or your mobile apps. Always keep it up to date, and please always use the actual wallet manufacturer URL addresses to actually ensure you gather the trustworthy updates, firmware updates for all of the applications from a trusted source directly from the wallet manufacturer itself. It's always good practice to use offline backups like other areas, right? So in my case, I have a password vault manager. So in my case, I use NordPass, but there's plenty of others out there to store my highly sensitive information, including my 24 recovery seed phrase. And also, as I said, I've backed up that information in a will and testament at a designated national registrar via notary services in the country that I live, because I have checked that there is a robust confidential protocol to ensure that no one other than me, whilst I'm alive, have access to the contents of my will and testament. If that's the case with your jurisdiction, you need to obviously do your research and assurance that that is the case. If so, that might be an interesting option in which to store this highly confidential 24 recovery seed phrase. And to round off, as I said earlier on, you should always start off with testing a nominal small amount first before you actually send off the remaining amount that you have originally in mind to send, right? That is very important, because you need to ensure yourself that you've followed correctly all of the best practice verifications, whether it's verifying your designated crypto holding hardware wallet account address on the receiving end, as well as the sender, because remember, there's a joint effort. You also need to check that you've selected, let's say you're sending Bitcoin, that you've selected the Bitcoin network to transmit your Bitcoin holdings. Don't use a non-Bitcoin network, please. Otherwise, you'll lose the actual amount, and that's it. You'll never be able to recover from it. And then, as I said, always run through a test transaction using a small nominal amount. So hopefully, between all of these simple steps, I mean, there's tons of other videos that you can find on YouTube that will actually give you the hardware wallet specific guidance. But basically, what I've shown you here is pretty much agnostic to any wallet manufacturer out there. It's pretty much the same. The only other additional advice I would leave you is there is an additional security feature to give you added protection. There is the notion of a passphrase, not the 24 recovery seed phrase, which is the very first thing you need to have. But in addition to that, there is a notion of a passphrase. Now, certain providers provide that, and there is a BIP standard, which is like the actual hardware wallet manufacturer industry standard on how to govern these security features. Things like the 24 recovery seed phrase, but also within that, they're starting to include passphrase. So I use passphrase in addition to my 24 recovery seed phrase. Why? Because I want to have maximum security, maximum comfort, and maximum peace of mind that, given that I'm going to be storing the majority of my digital holdings on the hardware device under this self-custody arrangement, I want to have maximum security measures in place. And this is what the passphrase, in addition to your standard 24 recovery seed phrase arrangement, you do have this additional option to actually add a passphrase and the passphrase PIN. You can refer to that information on Google. It's a very simple process. So what I'm trying to say is, between the two, in order to be able to gain access to your digital asset holdings on your hardware wallet, you need to be able to add an account for both the 24 recovery seed phrase as well as your passphrase itself, in order to be able to access and receive and send cryptos to it. So it's just an additional layer of security that gives you that additional peace of mind that, in my case, I've chosen to do. And it's very simple. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, please don't forget to hit the like button, to also share this video to friends and colleagues at work who might benefit from it. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, as I regularly publish interesting videos such as these anything to do with Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and the future of finance. So till next time.